I think this would be a good time for a beer.
Prohibition in the U.S. was always problematic. But with the onset of the Great Depression in 1929, the problem had become unbearable for the people.
Organized crime was running rampant as the population struggled to find work, and to top it off, alcohol was illegal. That's part of why it's called the Great Depression. The country was facing economic disaster, and they couldn't even have a bottle of suds to ease the pain.
But all that changed on April 7th, 1933, when America finally got its beer buzz back. And it started with one bold move by one of our greatest presidents, with one of his many legendary quotes.
This is the story of National Beer Day and how FDR used beer to help heal a broken nation.
So hop back with us into history so that we can learn about FDR and National Beer Day.
It's all coming right up. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Jen, certified beer server.
And I'm Paul, certified Cicerone. And together, we're a couple of beers.
Picture it. The United States. It's the 1920s. Flapper dresses, Model T Fords, jazz music, and no legal booze.
Yep, in 1920, thanks to the 18th Amendment and the Volstead Act, Prohibition took effect in the United States, and the manufacture, sale, and distribution of alcohol became completely illegal.
Yeah, it sounds like a nightmare, right? So imagine you're a successful brewery owner, and in 1919, that all changes. You go from having a successful business to being out of it, or worse, a criminal.
But people didn't stop drinking. Illegal speakeasies popped up everywhere, bootlegging was rampant, and homebrewing was creative. Let's just say that quality control was not the highest priority.
Not to mention the rise of organized crime, with the illegal booze and the mafia violence that came with it.
And beer, of course, took a nearly fatal hit. Most breweries either shut down or pivoted to near beer, which was less than 0.5% alcohol. It was basically like water with broken dreams.
Or they shifted to making things like ice cream, soda, or malt syrup.
Yeah, and the thing about malt syrup is very interesting. Breweries would package their malt syrup in tins and would sell these as a food product, as a baking product, but the tins would often have instructions on how to exactly avoid turning the malt syrup into homebrew. And so homebrewers started using the malt syrup produced by breweries
Pretty brilliant.
to make their own beer. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it was a rough time and getting rougher. In 1929, the stock market crashed, and it brought on the Great Depression, which just gutted the American economy.
Yeah, so by the 1930s, the American population was poor, tired, and thirsty for a change.
Enter Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who ran for president in 1932 on a promise to pull America out of the Great Depression and to lead the repeal of Prohibition, which he previously supported.
Yeah, well, politics is politics, and FDR understood the assignment. Just weeks after taking office, he signed the Cullen-Harrison Act, a law that finally allowed beer back on the menu, as long as it was 3.2% alcohol by weight or lower.
Now, 3.2% might not sound like much, but after 13 years of near beer and bathtub gin, it was practically a party.
Exactly. Now, the law was signed on March 22nd, 1933, but didn't go into effect until April 7th, 1933. So what happened on that day?
Massive celebrations. People lined up outside of breweries and taverns before the sun came up. Over 1 million barrels were sold in the first 24 hours.
Well, it was like New Year's and St. Patrick's Day and July 4th and Oktoberfest all had a baby. That's a lot of beer.
And that's the moment that we now celebrate as National Beer Day, April 7th, 1933, the day that beer became legal. Kinda.
Yeah, kind of. Prohibition wasn't officially repealed until December of 1933, but this was a step in the right direction. And when the 21st Amendment was passed, FDR remarked that this had been a crack in the dam. And it all started with 1 million pints of 3-2 beer. Okay, well, here's the twist. Not a lot of people celebrated April 7th as National Beer Day because it was unofficial.
Right. It wasn't until the early 2000s that National Beer Day started to catch on, and it was all because of the internet.
Shocking, I know, that beer nerds love their message boards and their blogs, and when they have something to say, they say it pretty loudly.
One guy in particular, Justin Smith, a beer lover from Virginia, really pushed the idea in 2009. He and his friend Mike created a Facebook page, and it took off from there.
Yeah, today you'll still see breweries celebrating National Beer Day, raising a pint, and putting out hashtags like National Beer Day or hashtag New Beer's Eve, which is the day before.
Because obviously you got a pregame legal beer with an unofficial holiday for almost legal beer.
Well, hey, if it gives us another opportunity to celebrate beer, I'm definitely in. By the way, did you know there's an untapped badge for National Beer Day?
Of course, and it's official now. National Beer Day was recognized by Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe in 2017.
Yeah, and in 2017, Congressman Dave Bratt officially recognized National Beer Day in the Congressional Record.
So whether you're into hazy IPAs or crisp lagers or just raising a glass for the day that beer became legal again, April 7th is the day to celebrate.
Yeah, and it's not just about the beer. It's about the community, the history, the people we share our beer with. So this coming Monday is April 7th and is National Beer Day, and here are a few tips to help you celebrate.
Tip number 1. Head to a craft brewery or tap house and support venues serving local and regional beers. You're sure to find something new to try on the front line of the American craft beer scene.
Tip 2. Take a brewery tour. American craft beer is equal parts science, art, and poetry. Tour your local brewery where they all come together. You'll have a new appreciation for the time and effort it takes to make the fresh local beer you've learned to love.
Tip number 3. Visit your local bottle shop. Maybe your favorite beer venue is at home. No worries, just head out to your local bottle shop and make up your own six-pack. Then sit back, relax, and crack open your own celebration of National Beer Day.
However you celebrate on Monday, April 7th, raise a glass to the great history of American beer.
And maybe say a little thanks to FDR and the 3-2 beer that helped heal a broken nation.
Okay, so we're going to celebrate National Beer Day by having a 3-2 beer. Now, the generation before us would remember that better, but there really isn't a 3-2 beer until you realize that 3-2 beer meant 3.2% alcohol by
weight.
Tell us the difference.
So 3.2 alcohol by weight is equivalent to 4% alcohol by value.
Okay.
So that's what you're looking at.
So a 4% light beer today would be a 3-2 beer.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're having just that. This is Yingling Light Lager. It's 4% ABV, which would make it a 3-2 beer.
Right.
Now, Yingling survived during the Prohibition by producing malt and ice cream, and they made a beer for the end of Prohibition. It was delivered December 1933, and it was called Winter.
Really?
And so, so we're going to be toasting a light beer here. The first thing I'll notice is the rich color by comparison.
Yeah.
So a little different, say, than...
I kind of anticipate a lighter color.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
lighter.
good. And what about on the nose? It's definitely a more beery smell than, say, some of the light lagers we're used to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tasting this one. I think that as far as a light lager is concerned, there's going to be a nice body to it.
Yeah. And again, we're not just drinking beer. We're drinking one of the survivors, one of the few that made it through Prohibition, right? All right, let's go get into it. Here's to National Beer Day.
National Beer Day.
Definitely beer.
Definitely beer, definitely light.
But I'm definitely getting malt flavors.
Crispy.
A little bit of hops in there.
It's nice.
That's not a bad way to start at all.
Can you imagine that's not a bad way to come out of Prohibition?
Oh, that's a great point. We might say today, we don't drink a lot of light lagers. However, after 13 years of being dry, this would be amazing. And people would lose their minds over it. And they did.
And they
Millions of pints. So Well, here's to Yingling and to their winner coming back after Prohibition.
Yeah.
And to craft beer in America.
Yep.
Well, that does it for our episode on National Beer Day. If you enjoyed the episode, smash that like button and subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future rounds of A Couple of Beers.
We've got plenty more beer history travels and tastings, and more than a few surprises coming your way.
And if you're planning on celebrating National Beer Day on April 7th, then tell us about it in the comments. We'd love to know what's in your glass.
We look forward to having you over again for a couple of beers. But until then,
may your beers be cold.
And your beds be warm.
Cheers.